we have Shatz, who is gonna teach us about the Prismind and the beautiful science and spirituality of prisms.
Right.
Prism.
Don't be in the prison, mind. Be in the prism.
Prism.
To get out of prison. Get a prism. The answer is simple. Am I ready?
You are.
Just had to check if I'm ready or not.
Everybody home?
Well, hello, my lovelies. All right. Thank you for coming. I always like to share with you. I'm going to share two poems with you that were both written for this event. And then we will have an open dialogue about prisms and the prism mind and crystals and whatever moves you. This poem is called The Want of the King, and this is very different from most of the poetry I write. Trying to get myself ready here. It's okay. All right. The lands enjoyed great wealth. Glittering was the prince's life. And yet the king and queen could not make him crave greater wealth. I'm good, he said. Good? Good, his majesty bellowed. Have I not done better than good for you withal? Not even a trinket dost thou want for. Want is for what one has not. Therefore, I do not want. Stretching the long tassel at his belt, smiled as he turned the crystal between his fingers. What is that you hold? The majestic finger pointed. Is it the gold medallion of your station, or be it your mother's purse? Dare show me. Show it I can, but know it you cannot. Shaking now the tassel to and fro, holding up the gem. Here is all the cosmos, and the grain of sand too. My hand wants for comprehension. Puff, silly words, unhanded or be handed. The sovereign arm reached out. Give to me what spells your mind. This is the source of consternation. Speak you do, and say that's true. This prism spells my mind, and by it gladly consternated. Throwing the tassel off with cupped hands, here is a place that won't be owned. The monarch owns all in his lands, all fair by my mercy. Swiping the sun-touched stone from impertinent hands, took it up to his eye, espied its inner wonder. Taken back in turn, do you not see all things stirring in the mind's eye? Cast adrift in reflections, do you not lose materiality's importance? Chirping like a bird, you disdain all that gives you comfort? You want not, and so your wants dither in illusions. When in want, illusions will fail. You want to want. That is your illusion. Not having wants, seek joy in nature. Be humble in your fortune. Do not waste it in wanting more. Easy words for the birds swept up in flights of fancy. Kingdoms rise and fall by our toil. Fantasy leaves us in poverty. The throne is held by diligence. Taking up again the long tassel, the boy who would be king sighed for his father's poverty. Is not royalty a fantasy? Does the bird want for joy? Dumbfounded by the prince's serenity, now the king's eye fell upon the sparkling stone. Thank you. Okay, this poem is more to stimulate our conversation. Just wrote it a couple of days ago, thinking about this talk. Let me use this so you don't have to look at that. The poem, Holding the Prism. Holding it up, catching the light it catches. This transcendental dream, swirling sparkles. Deep inside the wondrous toy, we meet the universe itself, the cosmos and the grain of sand. This is your heart, swimming in reveries. This is your mind, sorting reflections. This is your body, all waters within us, coherent, liquid crystal beings. This is a toy universe in the infinite toy universe. We toys in this star-drenched toy, toiling. This toying with toys, it's almost indecent. So I do have copies of The Want of the King I'll put on the back table. Now, this microphone has a very long cord, so we'll be able to pass it around among you as you speak. Then I'll use that mic myself. So I'll have a mic and you guys will have a mic. Can you hold that? And the chair. Feel something. Okay. Thanks. All right. I am so glad to be here and so excited to have this format speaking with you about this. So please share questions or your own experiences related to what is happening in this object, what is happening in your own mind, the nature of the universe, crystals, anything related to this. Who wants to begin? Or I could read another poem. I'm warning you. Yes, Marcy. Hold that up.
You told me that you had just gotten your shirt yesterday.
Yeah, the other day.
It's very prismic.
Oh, no wonder I bought it.
Yeah. Look at
Yeah,
the
it's
shirt.
got the facets. It got a nice pattern. You're right. I think I wore it today just because I bought it the other day and I thought it looks not bad. I hadn't thought about that, so thank you. I'm wearing a shirt appropriate for the day. Mike? It goes and goes, so feel free to pull.
I can stay on the back of the room then. But
Yeah.
I had a business in Salto crystals, and so I have a background in that. I have a piece with me today, different than the quartz crystal you have or the piece of glass. This is kunzite, which is a heart based. So kunzite, Kunzi or Kunsit, kunzite. I think so much of the energies you have to experience it. It's not visual, it's actually the experience.
Isn't visual part of the experience?
It's part of it, but it's not the limiting thing. It's not if you don't feel it, it's not an
Well,
energy.
hopefully visualizing is integrated or part of feeling. Just because we see it doesn't mean it's not connected to feeling. Seeing moves us. So I wouldn't separate the two.
Well, I do because as a visual kinesthetic person, I appreciate that. But when I feel it, that's what convinces me. If I hold up my hand and I feel it,
I guess I don't even relate to that idea because I never visualize without feeling it. It's always intrinsic. So I don't know the experience of seeing without feeling.
come here and take this one and see if you feel it in your left hand. The experience is what to me is important. I like to talk about the experience before the words.
I know you do, Mike.
I've been called a mystic, so that's
Yeah, well, you are. We all are, whether we know it or not. Well, it's a beautiful stone. It's got a light purple hue. I love to hold anything that's crystal. Reminds me of what we're made of. I want to get back to the poem for a second. Science has discovered that water that has coherent molecular structure, because some water can be just free molecules, but some water has coherent, aligned molecular structure, that that kind of coherent water is liquid crystal. And it's also been found that all water within the body is coherent. So we are literally liquid crystal beings. It's not just a metaphor. We are crystal forms. Thank you, Mike. I feel it. Oh, Dave, the other one.
You know, I thought of the feeling that I thought Mike might be talking about, or you talking about, the one before words. I keep thinking of, and you and I were on a trip coming back to Taos, and it was a damp, rainy day. We looked out and saw all these rainbows. But that's kind of the sense of being in that space. And it's just, what do you sense before the words?
Kind of like visualizing being intrinsic to feeling. For me, words are not separate from the feeling, the awareness. Words are these reflections within the prism that are not separate. They are simply manifestations and representations. So again, I hear the point about the feeling before the words, but for me, the words are inherent in the feeling. And I should clarify that when I say words, what I'm really talking about is concepts, and that concepts exist in nature before the human mind ever evolved. That concepts are, we call them archetypes. And we limit ourselves in this idea of archetypes to grand archetypes like the mother and the worker. But I think all concepts are archetypes. That's why I call my poetry archetype architecture. Dave, you remind me of a story. I was driving on the highway in California before I went to China, And I was driving along and I looked to my right and I saw this huge, gorgeous, perfect rainbow. And I pulled over, put on my blinker lights, and just sat in awe of the rainbow. And a policewoman pulled up and gave me a ticket for pulling over without cause. The only cause I had was looking at the rainbow. And it's funny, I said to her, do you see what I'm looking at? I pointed at the rainbow. Do you see that? And she's like, wow. And then she continued to write the ticket. Like, okay, ticketed for looking at a rainbow. Now I've really seen it all. It was like $50. It was either 35 or 50. It was a long time ago.
Protest.
No.
Could have made up an excuse.
Well, you know about the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, right?
You know, that is one of many beautiful things we can point at in cultural history that point to prisms being the nature of reality. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is the prism. This is where rainbows come from. The pot of gold is this object. This is the source of wisdom and richness and insight. I will continue to put this forward as a representation of truth. Anybody?
You talk about how all those little facets get in there.
Well, it's in the formation of the object, the molecules align. Now, this is glass, so I assume it's made by a very superficial process of just shaping the glass. But in a diamond or some other gem that has, facets, it's the molecular structure as the gem is forming, the molecules are lining up and it just builds on the original structure. Like actually diamond is a cubic form, and it starts with the cubic form and then the molecules align according to that structure as it grows. We have seen these humongous crystals in the caves in Mexico. Have you seen these pictures of like crystals that are bigger than people? They grow, right? And that's another thing I like to point out is that crystals grow. It shows, the relationship of prismatic form to life itself. Crystals grow just like we do. We are organic crystal forms. Where's the microphone?
What's the difference? What's the difference between a prism and a crystal?
Well, that's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that question. A crystal is just one form of prism. Normally in our mainstream reality, people think of a prism as a very strict form of parallel faces with matching bases. It's a very strict definition, but that's only for a physical scientific object. In my research, I found so many examples of prisms that don't follow that definition. So I will offer a more general definition that, first of all, a crystal is a physical object, right? So it's rigid. It doesn't change shape. But a prismatic form in the quantum field is this polyhedral form that is morphing, that is changing in shape. It has facets, but it's undergoing transformation. So we think of prisms like crystals as physical rigid forms, but when I'm talking about prismatic form, I'm not only referring to physical rigid forms, but also to these more flexible, morphing, transforming forms, whether it's in water. You know, when you're in a swimming pool, if the swimming pool is under sunlight, then you can see the shadows on the wall of the swimming pool. That's because of the geometric forms within the water. The shadow is only catching the light going through the water that creates these patterns on the wall of the swimming pool. This is all the geometries within the water of the swimming pool. And the quantum field is, I think, somewhat alike the water, that it's just going like this, and forms are coming into and out of being. Crystals are a physical, rigid form, but prismatic form is a more general description of really polyhedral, geometric forms. And two things that characterize prisms in my metaphysics. One is that there's internal reflection. And that's what's happening in any geometric form. And also the interdependence. When one facet is changed, that change is affected throughout the system, throughout the form. And because that change is affected throughout the form, that the changed form then changes each facet in it. So there's this interdependence within the system. So the reflection and the interdependence are the two characteristics which I think are essential to prismatic form. We come to you next, Sean. Okay. Marcy, you go first.
Okay, thanks. So is the reflection within the form if there is not light present?
That's another great question. And here's an example. On the sea floor, there are structures called accretionary prisms. This is large structures on the sea floor. And scientists have detected reflections of seismic waves. Seismic waves are the waves moving Earth that they measure earthquakes. There are reflection seismic waves in the accretionary prism. So, like I say in my manuscript, reflection does not necessarily a light. It's reflective of light.
Monitoring.
Sure. Can you pass the mic back to Sean?
So one thing that you just pointed out is that basically everything in that crystal, right, is kind of an outward or inward reflection depending on your perspective, right? And when Mike was talking about like feeling into crystals or whatever that is, I see a board there that says unity, oneness, dynamic, creative, right? And yes, the words that we find to tap into that knowledge and analytical, right? Which I would say is like the news, is a big portrayer of all of that. And ultimately, I believe in a world that everything on the outside is influence. If I want to change the outside world, I have to take some responsibility for those things that are inside of myself and not say, oh, that is someone else or someone else is doing something to me. But ultimately, it has brought something up inside of myself, which is awareness that I can heal and make a change. And so, we're living in a world where I feel like that victim mentality, or we don't have any choice, it's really being dumped on us. And
Yeah, I don't, that's definitely true for many people, but it's not, I mean, I think everyone here understands that we are not simply victims, we're also active agents.
Mhm.
And not only active agents, but just our being itself. Who was it who said, I think it was Rodin, the sculptor, who said, patience is another form of action. That absolutely, I agree with you that as who else said, oh, the point of maturity is when we stop saying it happened to me and when we start saying I did it.
Or at least admitting that we're a part of it.
Yeah, yeah. We're all in it together, whether we deny it or not. There's a lot of denial about that, but we're all in it together. We respond to each other, and the unwillingness to respond is another kind of response, but it's an oppositional response, whereas we want cooperative responses to each other. Even if we disagree, we want cooperative responses to each other. Here. Yeah, Marta.
My experience with crystals has been very healing in the sense of physically, where I'll use a crystal, its properties, and hold it to parts of my body that the chi might be stuck or the energy might be stuck. So when I take the crystal and I put it in the place where my body is troubled, the crystal takes on that energy. So as it takes on that energy, then something is happening within the crystal itself because I'm adding another element to
And the crystal is giving back, right?
And so the crystal is giving back, but in the sense, so the crystal, in the process of doing that, I am changing what's happening in the crystal also. So that the crystal transforms itself at that time to match what's going on in me to be able to help me. And then I give it back to it. So the gratitude coming from that is that the crystal has shared its energy with me.
The empathy.
And helped me. I'm not saying that it works every time to do something like that, but that the compassion, perhaps, and the empathy, like you say, from the crystal itself, is soothing in itself, those properties. And the crystals, there's so many, have all different properties that may be stronger than other crystal, perhaps. So I also try to align with that. I'm really grateful that we live here in New Mexico because so much of our floor is covered with
So much of
our earthen floor is covered with crystals, so that I feel like we are walking in reflection so much of the time because of that.
I love that idea of walking on crystals. Sean, I wanted to ask if what I responded to you satisfied what you were speaking on.
Yeah, I mean, maybe explaining to us your practice and staying in unity, oneness, and dynamic, right? And then that curiosity that allows us to utilize what's around us.
Hey, before you do that, Zach.
Yeah, and Laurel will be next after.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, just before it gets so old. I feel there's an analogy with the non-verbal, the before words idea, that sort of like that it is like a flow that is like water, and then there's structure, And what the structure is, you could say, analogous to words, feelings, and all of these things that flow through us.
Relationships.
That, well, words, verbal, expression, which are always sort of pitiful compared to
Mm,
the original flow.
mm, mm. Only if we look at words superficially. But like I say, when I say words, I'm really talking about concepts that goes all the way down the ladder of structure down to the quantum field. So, words are only rigid and superficial and lame if we limit them that way. But if we see their depth, then they are as infinite as everything else.
Yeah, I'm not saying particularly that they're superficial or anything like that. Just that they become, it's the flow that becomes structured.
In my metaphysics, I see structure throughout. It's prismatic form, it's flexible, it's morphing, but I don't know what doesn't have structure.
Oh,
Well, there may be something that doesn't have structure, though. I think we can keep an open mind about that, probably.
That's why I'm here today.
What about
Doing this.
intuition, Zach? Would you say?
What about what?
Intuition, does that have structure?
Absolutely, it's this morphing, whereas rational thought is this rigid structure system where you have linear, logical, step by step. In intuition, let me describe in my metaphysics what I understand intuition to be, is that everything we perceive, whether it's a color, a sound, a conversation, contact with anything we perceive is reflected across the whole mind. And anything that is isolated in the mind is a possible source of mental illness. We don't want to isolate things in the mind. We want the mind to have this complete reflection throughout. But of course, a lot of our mind is unconscious, subconscious, and so much of the mind is subconscious, and most of the mind is not conscious. Like the color I just looked at 2 seconds ago is not conscious anymore, but it's still part of the subconscious. So as these reflections are occurring throughout the mind, that naturally resonance between facets of the mind, these are concepts have vibratory rates, that as the concepts come into resonance, they create holes, which end up being poetry and music and math formulas and, architecture. So some of these holes that are formed in the process of this resonance in the mind are including parts of the mind that we normally are not seeing, are not conscious of. And when these hidden parts that become part of whole concept structures avail us of those parts which we couldn't see before. So suddenly intuition, we know something, we don't know how we know it. It's from these parts playing a role in holes that were formed where we suddenly see parts that we weren't aware of consciously.
So that's a dynamic form. So you're saying it's related to the quantum world, the way that intuition's formed in a dynamic way by
Yeah,
these facets coming together
yeah.
and creating a whole, but it's in the quantum realm.
Well,
Is it,
it's a manifestation of the quantum realm, but I think at the point of the mind's operation, well, I guess it still could be in its most basic fundamental nature, still quantum. Go ahead.
I just wondering, if it's relating to the quantum, the morphing in the quantum field, are you relating it in the mind in the same way?
Definitely, because the mind in physics, there's this idea called superposition. Superposition is the matrix of particle reflections, of particle interactions, where nothing can be identified. It's so morphing, it's so fluid that nothing can be detected or identified or measured. This superposition, and then there's the collapse of the wave function, where there is a where something can be detected. And the mind exists in this superposition until we focus on something, and then there's a collapse of the wave function. So the mind is definitely quantum.
Yeah, my experience with intuition is that it is a knowing without words. And I guess I'm going back to the sort of flow that, you're saying basically everything has structure, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps it's just maybe term vibration would be better. Everything has a vibration, therefore
So
it's a kind of
to
structure.
to
The
play
way
on what you're saying,
yeah,
vibrations are in relationship.
right. With
So that's the structure. It doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be a structure that's unchanging. It's structures that, like in a river, there are structures within the water. They're moving, they're changing, but there's relationship of vibrations.
there, yeah. Well, but you were talking about structured water and unstructured water. Our structured water in our body and
Yes,
in fruit, that's structured water.
right,
And then there's machines that structure the water for us.
right.
And then there's the unstructured water.
But the
So it's just a
unstructured water
different
does,
structure.
yeah.
That's what you're
yeah,
saying.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Good,
good. Somebody over here,
good
I think
clarification.
was first.
Laura? How are we doing? We have a couple of minutes. Sean, I'm still not sure I answered what you were speaking to.
We'll figure it out, give me a call.
We'll be in relationship.
Ah, great talk. There's so much that you can speak to. And
It's all there.
yeah, it's all there. It's in the prison.
You want to know what's going on? It's all there.
It's reminded me some of the things that came up as the holographic nature of the universe, and what inspires me is that if you change one aspect, everything
Yes.
changes.
Yes.
You asked for the personal experience, and I think that's really juicy because we're all like, what about this? What about intuition? How am I causing the world I see? How is that an image in my mind that everything I perceive is an outpicturing of an inward condition? If that's the basis, I'm not saying anyone would agree with me, but that's where I see transformation occur, is when I go back to causation, own it, feel the result of this idea. Say, for example, someone whose life on earth ended yesterday, that's me, and the man who shot him is me. And the scenario, thinking about holograms, if I take it all back in, I witness a change in the world that I'm out picturing. If I don't take it back in, I'm a separate, structured human being without influence, really, because I'm not owning my experience.
So can I respond?
Sure.
There are two me's, the personal me and the non-local me. And in the quantum field, every particle interaction is experienced throughout the universe, not just local. That's the meaning of non-local, is that the change that happens in local space is transmitted or felt throughout the entire quantum field in the universe.
And immediately,
Instantaneously. So our experience of the man who was shot is both local and non-local. But are we responsible for the man being shot? That is a non-local me that has a different kind of responsibility than a local me. So when we say me in a non-local sense, that includes everybody else too. There's a me that includes everybody, and there's a me that's just personal me.
I guess, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I can overly identify with a personal self, and I see that's where fear comes from. And when I let that go and not make it myself, but almost stepping back to what already is the fundamental pre-structure, the word before the concept, let's say, the light.
The concept before the word?
Well, I don't want to get into semantics, say the light in that prism.
Yes.
Without it in a dark room, we're not going to see the prisms in that. There's a source of light, which is representational, let's say, to the personal self. We can talk about light. We have an idea of light, which is maybe the same light we use with the body's eyes, but if we talk about a different light that includes what's going on in the ocean, that includes all relationship, that is instantaneous with everything.
Yeah.
That is, we can manifest a crystal and let it be unmanifest in the next moment if we're willing to be that light. We're not separate from that light. We can consciously remember ourselves beyond the personal.
Whether we acknowledge it or not, we're part of the quantum field.
And the beauty of acknowledging it is it allows us to be quantum, to include everything as ourselves.
We remove the limits that keep us only in the personal me. Yeah.
I want to add something on the kunzite that I didn't explain, and that is on one axis, the color is much more saturated. And so that it kind of is, whether we focus on that or on the overall, the energy of it. That's really, I didn't talk about that, but that's really, I got this piece because it's much more saturated in one axis.
Energies go in all different directions. They're not all equal. I wanted to speak to another point that Laurel was making. When there's no light in the room, there's still reflections going on within the form. Yeah.
I just want to ask real quick, Zach, because you have it up there. What is negative muon decay? And
That's
why did
just
you
a
put that?
one kind of particle interaction.
But what did you want to show us about?
Just that it's showing the geometric nature of the quantum field. That's really the only reason this is here. Is to show that the particle interactions aren't like they're angular, and so it creates geometric forms within the quantum field.
So what, in maybe one sentence or two,
Oh boy.
could you say?
On this for 40 years.
Yeah, well,
Go for it.
What your angle is.
Here it is.
no, wait, it's a little different maybe, but how does quantum mechanics, quantum physics, how can it better our lives? How can we think about it in a way that
I've got one word.
Why expands us?
I've got one word: interconnection. Because the quantum field, the non-local field, is the whole universe is all interconnected. And if we understand interconnection, then we allow ourselves to grow in all different directions. We stop growing when we decide limits. But if we are open to ongoing growing and ongoing learning, I want to make a point before we finish, because we're at the end, that in my theory, enlightenment is not a point of arrival where suddenly someone's an enlightened being. Enlightenment is the realization that ongoing learning is enlightenment. if we're just open to growing and learning, that is the widest field for light to operate. So this idea that some teachers like Rupert Spira or Adyashanti or Gangaji or Mukti or Muji, you know, got a list. We're all growing. And there are, of course, thousands of people who aren't commercializing their wisdom, who are just as wise as those people, right? So enlightenment is more just a willingness and an interest in growing, allowing light to enter our consciousness.
Beautiful.
Thank you all very much. You prismatic people.